You gonna start the next one, or you want to take a couple minute break?
Do you all need any breaks or no? You guys okay?
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure you follow our national regulations. But I'll respond to your questions, so you have it in writing.
Hello, dear. I'll talk to you after the meeting.
Okay.
So you know, it looks like we're live right now.
Okay.
Are we? Yep.
We are.
All right, I want to call to order. Good morning. The April 11th, 2023 school board meeting. We have reading of the district's vision by board member Messenger. Take it away.
Sure. The school district of Manatee County will be an exemplary student-focused school system that develops lifelong learners to be globally competitive. And with that, I'd like to welcome Dr. Linda Francis. She's been so gracious to come here today to take a little bit of time out of her very busy day as an assistant principal at Manatee High. So I'm so grateful that you are here today to offer us an invocation. Thank you so much.
If we can all stand.
Good morning.
Morning.
Let us pray. Good morning, God. Thank you for this day. Thank you for the rising of the sun and the setting of the same. Thank you for the little birds that are chirping in the trees. Thank you for life, for health, for strength. And God, we lift up the leadership of this body as they prepare to do the work of the district. As it says in Colossians 3:12, therefore, as God's chosen people, holy and dearly loved, clothe yourselves with compassion, kindness, humility, gentleness, and patience. Therefore, as we do our work today, let us display godly humility, gentleness, patience, and kindness. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Y'all join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I move to item number 5, information only. That's our leaves for April 11th and also the year-to-date financial statements and charter school financial statements as well. Number 6, approval of the agenda. The chair has found good cause to amend the agenda to include all items listed under agenda amendments on the April 11th, 2023 agenda, updated April 10th, 2023, and posted to the district website, www.manteeschools.net. And just FYI, the change was just taking an item off of consent and completely off the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. And is everybody in Granicus? I know we had issues getting in.
Yes.
Everybody's in to good to go to vote?
It didn't bring up the motion, so.
And I believe it is up now, ready for us to vote. Maybe not. I asked everyone and mine's not.
I didn't see a join button.
Yeah, I didn't see a join button either.
You have to refresh.
There it is.
Yeah.
There it is.
Okay, refresh.
Yeah, refresh, go back. Sorry.
All right.
All I have are views.
Did you hit the little circly refresh?
Down at the bottom right.
Where's the, oh, I see.
Bottom right.
Yeah, bottom right is like a little
Ah,
circle.
thank you.
And it's still not letting me. There we go.
There we go.
Yeah, and there's a join.
I don't see the joint.
Yeah, please.
Please, because it's not.
Thank you.
Oh, good. So let's go ahead and let's get a formal, actually, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? No. Passes 5-0. Thank you very much. As we'll figure out Granicus as we get going. Item number 7, approval of the minutes. Superintendent Saunders.
Yes, I recommend the approval of the minutes from School Board Meeting March 28th, 2023, and School Board Workshop March 31st, 2023.
So moved.
I'll second.
We got a motion. We got a second. Let's go ahead and, are we still not in?
I think I'm there.
Okay, so let's go ahead and vote. We'll vote still old school. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously 5-0. No student celebrations this morning. Unfortunately, number 9, recognitions, good news moment. Mr. Barber.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, board members, and Superintendent Saunders. We do call this our good news moment, and really the reason that we do this is because when we have these 10 a.m. meetings, we cannot bring students as a general rule into these meetings because our students and teachers and other employees are busy working in our schools and support sites. So we still want to be able to share some good news about what our students are accomplishing. And we do that through our Good News page, which is found on our district website at manateeschools.net/good news. And since August of this year, Melissa Parker in our office and Manatee Schools Television have generated more than 130 positive stories about our students and employees in both stories and videos. So we wanted to do something a little bit different this morning. The All-County Elementary Music Festival was held on Thursday evening, March 23rd. It was a tremendous event. The audience was packed. We thought it'd be a great way to start off this meeting by showing you two selections from that meeting. One from the All-County Orff Ensemble, which you'll see, that'll be the first selection that you'll see. And then the second is the All-County Elementary Orchestra. And just so you'll know, there were 21 elementary schools across the district who had students participate. And there were 91 members of the All-County Chorus and 25 members of the All-County Orff Ensemble. So this video is 6 minutes long, so just enjoy the talent of our students and the hard work of our teachers. So.
Good evening, distinguished guests, performers, family members, and friends. My name is Dr. Christy Isaacs, and I am the music teacher at Palmasola Elementary School.
My name is Nicole Messner. I am the music teacher at Bashaw Elementary School. We are the coordinators for tonight's 18th annual Manatee County Elementary Music Festival.
Ensemble performances like this evening's concert exemplify Aristotle's quote, "The whole is greater than the sum of its parts." Thank you for being a part of this school district, and thank you, school district, for embracing and supporting our students' musical endeavors. Thank you for supporting the Arts Millage and supporting our district visual and performing arts personnel so we can continue to offer the very best to all of our students.
Sing our song, sing our song. When we all get back together, we will sing our song. Sing our song. When we all get back together, when we all get back together, we will sing our song. When we are together or when we're far apart, we can keep our friends together with a song that's in our heart. None of us will be forgotten. We need all to keep us strong. When we share the notes and rhythms and the words that make our song. Sing our song, sing our song. When we all get back together, when we all get back together, we will sing our song. All welcome in this chorus. You belong here, you will see. Every voice is necessary as we make our melody. Come and join us in our choir, lend your voice and company. And together we will sing our song in a world of harmony. Sing our song, sing our song. When we all get back together, when we all get back together, we will sing our song. Sing our song, sing our song. When we all get back together, when we all get back together, when we all get back together, we will sing our song.
I hope that puts you in a good mood for the rest of the meeting. Just to finish this out, I want to introduce Rhea Skaggs. She's a curriculum specialist for the visual and performing arts. She just wanted to say a few words about how they brought this together. So.
Thank you very much for allowing me to be here today. I hope you've had a wonderful start to your day with music. Can't go wrong there. Just to highlight a little bit of the video that you saw, what we typically see as an audience member is really just the tip of a very, very large iceberg. The work that was going on backstage, the corralling of students, 120 plus of them backstage, keeping them quiet so that we could actually hear what was going on in the forefront. We have to give a huge compliment and shout out to all of our elementary music teachers who not only distributed all the information so that parents knew what was going on, students knew what was going on, but they also worked beyond their school day to prepare this select group of students to be able to do these performances. This wasn't something that they just did during their classroom time. Some of our teachers, as you know, our music teachers, are teaching anywhere between 400 and 1,200 students every week. So trying to do that on top of a regular schedule and grading that many students and impacting the lives of not only these students but their families and our communities in such a positive way really deserves all of the support and accolades that we can possibly give them. And they are the true heroes in our communities. What's interesting is one of the pieces that the students sang was also in Hebrew. So they're doing foreign languages at the elementary level. They're doing intricate rhythms in the Orff Ensemble. They're learning cooperative community building skills through these music classes. And we oftentimes hear it's just music, just go have fun. But it's so much more than that. They really learn life skills that will put them on the path of success for the rest of their life. So I want to thank Dr. Isaacs and Nicole Mesner for their incredible organization and their coordination, and then also Dr. Isaacs and Dr. Katz, who stepped in as conductors and clinicians. So all of the praise should go to our music teachers, and I'm really, really proud to have an opportunity to work with them. It's been very humbling to see how they all work together so well. So thank you for allowing me to be here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Quick comment?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'd just like to point out that in classical education, music is actually part of the quadrivium, right? So it is more than just, hey, we're all singing and dancing and having fun. It really is part of, it's been part of Western education since the ancient Greeks, as was mentioned. Actually, you quoted Aristotle, did you not, in the video? See, I watched it, so good for you. So it is important. I'm glad to see that it's part of our educational system. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It is a good way to start a meeting. Wish they were live, although it's a lot of them.
It was better live. I was there. It was better live.
All right, moving to item number 10, public comments. We have no signed public comments for this morning's meeting. So we move to item number 11, reports and presentations. Ms. Foreman, you want to present to us on, are we saying COSBA? Is that how we're
COSBA,
pronouncing?
yes.
COSBA?
COSBA is the Consortium of State School Board Associations. It's a new organization that sprang up because of associations not wanting to be affiliated with the National School Board Association, NSBA. And there are 23 states who are now members. This was their inaugural conference. It was very well attended. They had over 1,400 people. Wow. So a lot of breakout sessions, just a lot going on. But I wanted to, anytime I go to a conference, I come back with takeaway points that I try to incorporate. But there were some that I wanted to bring back, especially to the board, to for consideration of going into it deeper, in a workshop. Some of these topics. It started off with a keynote session from Chuck Underwood, who it was called 6 Generations, One America. And he's the founder of the Generational Imperative. There's a book, 800 pages, which I probably am going to get. But he was talking about the generations that are here. Right now, we have 6 generations still alive in our country. And his point was that when you have a one of his points, you have multi-generational boards, members of the board from different generations, it's either an opportunity or it's a calamity. And internally, it enhances board harmony, wisdom, and productivity. Externally, it improves board understanding, communications, final outcomes with employees, voters, legislators, vendors, students, and parents. So we need to understand and respect each other's core value and life experiences. A generation is formed based on what they go through in their up through their high school years. Okay, generations typically they're formed. Their core values are formed in the first 18 to 23 years of life. And he went through and explained some of the generations. For example, baby boomers, he was saying the silent generation, which was 1927 to 1945, they are not necessarily good leaders, and went into why. Now, baby boomers lead everything, We have 61 members of the Senate, 183 members of the House, and 28 governors are baby boomers. He also made the point that millennials do not lack for ego, but just throwing that out there. So, but whatever. But it does, it just made so much sense. And I would really, this was for school board associations, and I would really hope that you would find an interest in it. I'm going to, but perhaps we want to add something about it to our master board training when we do that.
Can I ask you a question about that?
Sure.
Did they record this? Did they have that stuff available, like to see her again, or no?
No, they want you to go to the conference.
Right.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
figured.
And he's got, I looked it up, he's got 6 DVD set, of each of the generations, which might be a little more palatable than reading 800 pages, but it's expensive.
And so this is a once a year.
This conference?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a national conference. Next year it's in Dallas.
Okay.
So, okay. Then, and it was funny because what points he made that kept coming up in all of the breakout sessions, talking about, what generation we are, or what generation we're dealing with. So, anyway, it's really good. Then, of the breakout sessions I went to, the most significant one, I think, was, for me, was Messages Matter, telling the story of public education. And they're saying school board members have to now advocate for public education. And they went through how to create an elevator speech, state your core values and be brief, and talk about why public education is great. Make sure you include data, because W. Edwards Deming said, without data, you're just a person with an opinion, which I thought was a great quote.
That is a great quote.
And they pointed out the spokesperson for the district is the superintendent, but the spokesperson for the board is the chair. And we have to identify messages with the board and be united in our message. And they made suggestions, and also we need to structure for two-way communication, not just public comment. It needs to go beyond public comment. We need, and some ideas that were thrown out is, one district assigns each board member to a town hall, invite legislators to tour schools so they can see for themselves, allow students to share their experiences, join the joint meeting with board and county commissioners, which we're doing. One of them they have 3 seniors present at each board member, arts, academics, and athletics, which I thought was interesting. And we're here about the kids, so.
At each board meeting?
At each board meeting, they must have long board meetings, but we could break it up. And then give each board member a presentation to give at each school. And that aligns with each board member holds a town hall in the district every so often. So it was, I think that's something that we might want to consider, exploring. So. And then, okay, now this one I have to preface. Public, we are not recommending this. We are not considering this. It was a session I went to that was very interesting, which was a 4-day week, everything you wanted to know. And it was presented by a district in Arkansas, very small, very small. But it's nationwide, it's becoming more and more, more and more schools
Companies are doing it?
Yeah, well, companies are doing that, but, and it's difficult in elementary school, some of the problems were talked about, but, and they talked about advantages and all, but beforehand, they did a survey, and what they did is they extended the school day, which if we have to start high school later, because of the new legislation, could run into the evening hours, I guess. But 80% of the high school responses in their survey were positive and 70% in middle school. Elementary, not so much. But it saves money, it recruits teachers, people want to work a 4-day week, so. Anyway, I don't know if we want to explore that either, but it was interesting. And then the last one, which we should talk about probably, is elevating student voice at the government level. This was the benefits of getting students involved in the governance and not just asking their opinion when the decisions have been made. But students who are involved typically perform better, are more, they take ownership. And they're saying, do not restrict it to the outstanding students, the ones who come up here and are winning the awards, but let's find a way to listen to and bring in the students who aren't typically, you know, the excelling students, you know. And I'll leave it at that. I don't want to, but it was some good stuff. So, if you have an interest in a workshop, I would add it to the workshop list, and to talk about the communication and student involvement. I don't know if you want to have a workshop about the four-day week. So.
Well, are you okay to take questions from the board if anybody's got any questions?
Sure.
Or anything? From the conference?
I'd be interested in going to that sometime. That sounds like it was very, very detailed.
Yeah.
So-
Fortunately, this was in Tampa,
Right.
so it was, not costly, but
But do they do quarterlies?
no.
Just
It's,
an annual?
Right, it's annual, and the next one, I think the dates are on their website, but, yeah, it's in Dallas, so, can't drive there.
Well, no. Okay.
All right, thank you.
Fascinating.
Thank you for going.
Yeah, thank you.
for
Oh,
giving an update.
thank you for allowing me.
It sounds like it was
Yeah,
really
sounded like it was
beneficial.
It was very good, so.
Good. Moving on to item number 12, consent items, Superintendent Saunders.
Yes, I recommend the approval of the consent agenda for April 11th, 2023.
So moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion, we have a second. Are we good? Everybody good with, I legislate now?
Yeah, I'm there.
All right. Go ahead and cast your votes there, and that passes 5-0.
Can I
Move-
make a comment on the consent? Real quick. It's done, I understand that. I just want to make sure that everyone knows that I've done my homework on that. That's all I want to say. A lot of research.
Number 15, item number 15, we're obviously no more public comment, so moving forward to item number 15, new business, non-consent items. Item number 1 under there, Superintendent Saunders.
Yes, I recommend the approval of the budget amendments for February 2023.
Okay.
So moved.
I'll second.
And, yep, Ms. Sellers coming up. You're good.
Let's see, in review of that budget amendment for the February, there were 725 budget amendments, 4,586 chart strings affected, and entries with chart strings affected by more than $1 million was 27. There were 2 in the general fund related to interest income revenue estimate increasing $1 million, and the referendum salary projection amounts $1.2 million. There were 4 chart strings in the debt service, and there was related to transfer interest from the COPS 2021 program to the COPS 2023 program. This was 2.6. This is because COPS first started initiated in 2021, and we are just reconciling and cleaning up our books because this is now actually COPS 2023. So, and there were also transfers in from the Capital Projects Fund, moved from the COPS 2021 program to the COPS 2023 program. And then also there were 19 chart screens related to the Capital Fund, 16 of the chart screens related to projects funded from COPS in 2021 program to the 2023 program. This included Blackburn Elementary renovation and replacement, the Hale Middle addition and renovation, Odico Elementary Schools renovation, and the Terra Elementary addition and renovation. There was also the Terra project additional estimated cost to the COPS program of $3.7 million, and there were also Hurricane Ian damages, 1.3. This was included in insurance of or FEMA claims, which include mainly school roofing, playgrounds, and fencing. And in the Special Revenue Fund, 1 chart string, this was related to Title I revenue increase of $1 million. and 1 chart string in the internal service fund. This was where it was primarily, if this was the budgeted ending fund balance decrease of 7.1 million, and this was related to the ESSER 3 funds of the 7.1 were transferred to the health insurance fund this year to cover the COVID claims that were processed in the previous fiscal year that had reduced the fund balance in that prior period. The current trend of claims has made it necessary to move this funds to an expenditure line to support payment of those claims. Then there were also functions within a fund with the change over 1 million. And in the general fund, this was revenue increased 2.5, primarily related to the higher insurance income and the EDP after-school program. And the health insurance fund central services function, the increase of the 7.1 million reflecting the increase in the anticipated claims. And in the special revenue fund, revenue increased 2.2 million. This was Title I and ESSER and Pell Grant increases. And then also in the special revenue fund, the instructional function increased 1.5 million, and also related to Title I, Pell, ESSER, ARP, and ESSER 2 adjustments. Thank you. Does
Thank
anybody
you.
have any questions? Or?
I have a couple questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
So on the chart under the executive summary, there are columns: general fund, debt service, capital outlay, federal funds, food service. The internal service column, that is our self-insured health care fund.
Yes.
Is there a reason we just don't?
So workers' comp.
And also workers' comp.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's probably more reflective because workers' comp is in there, so it's not just the health insurance, it's both of them.
So it's both those together. Okay. I'm just wondering if there's a way we could label that so it's more people that read it understand what it is. As a small box too. I don't know. Every time I look at it, I have to remind myself internal service. If the public is.
So that's actually the name of the service, the account that actually gets recorded in the financial statement. So the internal service, since it repairs for us, we can, for you guys, we can go ahead and put that in the exec to make it just as a reminder.
Sure. Maybe like a little star there, and then underneath the box, star internal service is workers' compensation and healthcare fund or something like
We
that.
can do that.
For people in the public who actually read these things, like Mr. Who's the gentleman who used to come all the time?
Mr. Nelson.
Yeah, he probably is the type that would enjoy that. So anyway, and then there's nothing in the trust and agency column, but if there were changes there, what would that exactly mean, trust and agency?
You know what, at this point in time, escapes me what accounts are in that one.
I would just like
but
to know.
I can get back with you and we can send something through Laura to let you know what that was.
So when the day comes that there is something there, then I won't show my ignorance. I'll actually know what it is.
Me neither, too.
you.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Ms. Sellers. That's all I
Thank
have.
you.
Thank you.
I just have a question maybe for Superintendent Saunders, probably better to answer this. The higher EDEP program estimates, that's after school program?
Yes.
And so we've had more attending than we thought, right?
Sure.
Is that a trend in past years? Like, I don't know.
It varies. Of course, during COVID and so forth, it diminished. Part of it has to do with expanding the programs. The other after-school programs we run are Boys and Girls Club. We also have a grant, 21st Century grant. So some of that varies based on other programs. If we continue or expand some of these others, then EDEP diminishes because those students are funneling to a different source. We tend to put 21st Century at Title I because that grant covers the ability for parents to go, whereas EDEP is a cost to run aftercare services.
I just mentioned that because we obviously know the transportation issues. So if more kids are staying after school and not getting on the bus with whatever program,
Right.
that can be helpful.
Absolutely.
So,
And then parents are able to pick them up after work.
sure. Okay. Any other questions, board members? No? Thank you very much, Ms. Sellers. We appreciate that. So we do have to vote, and it is up. Go ahead and enter those in, and approval of the budget amendments passes 5-0. Thank you very much, board members. Item number two, Superintendent Saunders.
Yes, I recommend the approval of a new job description and position of supervisor site support services.
So moved.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. I would say, Superintendent, you can just relay what exactly this is for us.
Yes, there were a couple of retirements of director positions within our IT department. So this is really kind of a reorganization of an administrative job that is a lesser position than a director. And having to classify some of the people that reported to the director are now going to be reporting to this person.
Okay. Board members, any questions on that? We good? All right, we have a motion, we have a second, no discussion, so let's go ahead and vote on item number 2. And the approval of a new job description position of supervisor site support services passes 5-0. Item number 3 in our new business, Superintendent.
Yes, I recommend the approval of Manatee Elementary School auditorium exterior renovations, agreement between owner and Willis Smith Construction, Inc., pre-construction services in the amount of $9,000.
So moved.
We have a motion
I'll second.
and a second, and I do have a board member lit up to speak, Mrs.
Yep.
Pray.
I actually pulled this from consent because I have some questions about this project. And, I mean, the total project is like $500,000. This is just one portion of it. Trying to sort my paperwork here, I'm sorry. So this is basically, if Mr. Rinaldi could come up to the board and explain what this project is really about. It's about tucking the concrete points, doing some water mitigation to a building. That, and the questions that I had for Mr. Rinaldi and Ms. Saunders was, we're putting money into a school that was built in 1926. I do value the historical part of this. We did some renovations in 92 and some other things. There's a lot of portables, but this whole site is only a little over 4 acres, and we have like 700 students, I think, that goes through there. And I just think that the students deserve better. I don't think we should be putting more money into renovating this site, and that long-term, we should be looking at a new location for this school. It's just so small. And with the amount of student body that we have there, and I understand I'm gonna probably get a lot of hate email about that, but I'm not saying get rid of the school. I'm saying I think the students deserve a better place than being all compressed in this little 4-acre site. I've been there for the student parent pickup. I know there's been some projects that we did on that too in the past that probably improved it, but it's still pretty tight quarters for everybody. The cafeteria is super small. I can't imagine, circling those kids through there. The play area, I'm not a big fan of the play area on a security standpoint. And again, the portables that's on the west side of that lot is not in the school, but it's on the outside, but we're using it for services. So that's why I pulled this item, and then the other one is actually connects with this as well. So, and again, let me add too, the Castaldi, Jacobs and Castaldi. From my conversation with Mr. Rinaldi, we asked to have that study done. This wasn't done on this site, I'm guessing, but when we were talking about the Palmasola, it was cited as being we have to tear it down because the state said we had to. And that school was built in 62. Yet, here we are, a school built in 26, and I've been in that auditorium. When I walked in there, and I understand the need to do something in there, I have sensitivities, and I just couldn't stand to be in there very long. So there is an issue out there. I just don't know if putting in 500,000, 600,000 into fixing this, when I think the students there deserve to have a newer site, a safer site, and, you know, the school success isn't that great either, so there's a lot of things that go into all of that. So when we're looking at one school saying that the DOE is saying we have to tear that down or we have to remodel that because of the age of the building and all of the things that were going on at Palmasola, yet we're bringing this to the board and there's no saying, oh, the district said we had to, oh, the DOE said we had to tear it down because of the age. 50 years, you look at the 50 years, after 50 years, then you gotta start thinking about remodeling, tearing down and that. So if you could please share with.
Okay, maybe I can give you a little bit of overview, start with the Jacobs and talk about the history of the campus. Hopefully my PowerPoint will come up and you all will see it. Do you see my PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let me see. So the Jacobs assessment. One of the reasons that we focus on Palmasola is when it came to the rankings, Palmasola ranked as number 2, needing the most need and the most attention as compared to the other campuses. Manatee L presently comes in 43. With the 9 projects we've got going on now, it'll move up to 34th. But one of the things that does that is, can you get me to the next one? Or when we look at the actual age of this campus, it's true, we do have about 44,000 square feet of the 105,000 square feet that was built in 1926. The campus-wide, there was a major renovation done in 2006. Yeah. But as you go through, you can see that there are multiple ages and eras of the different buildings that are on campus that make up the other 50,000 square feet. As you can see, the red one, that's the 1926. It includes the auditorium, 2-story classroom, and it has the administration building in there as well. Pink was built in 1956. Once again, the renovations in 2006 addressed the immediate needs for those structures. And then all of the blue was constructed in 1991. The green, building number 9 was built in 2000, and then building number 10 was built in 2007. So what DOE and what Jacobs does is they look at the campus holistically, and yes, you may have a building or two that is beyond its useful life, but the expectation is that you'll put the renovation and remodeling funds into that building because you've got so many other buildings on that campus that are well within their useful life. So, for instance, if we were to demolish Building 1 and rebuild, we would have a construction budget probably around $16 million for the 44,000 square feet at the $365 a square feet that we're seeing for new construction as well. It is a small campus. We're right bumping at 6 acres. And we have MCR, and we do have some health portables that are occurring along the west side there, which is the left side on the presentation. So from a standpoint of where we're going to put our capital money, with a project like this, we take a look at what the specific needs are within that campus, because DOE is not going to allow us to come in and completely demolish the existing campus. There are too many new pieces. And I mean, the process that we go through is Jacobs was the report, was the basis for our data for making our priorities. So, I mean, right now, that's a living document for us. We're updating it annually with construction costs, with the actions that we're taking so that we're current with the priorities. But once we get that Jacobs report, then it's up to the district to determine whether they want to do the Castaldi report and then request of DOE that you demolish a building on campus. At this point right now, we may get a positive yes for demolishing a 1926 building, but when you look at the actual where it stands in the rankings at this point right now, we feel that it would be better to renovate, address the moisture problems we've got in the auditorium, address the windows, remortar some of the joints, and seal the building at this point right now. So that's kind of the thought process we go through and what the history of that campus is.
Well, I don't, is it okay?
Yeah, you're still lit up to speak.
Okay. And that's, it's not so much the dots, when we did this building, when we did that building, and when we're so confined in that area. And we're looking at other sites with acres and acres of land for elementary schools now, and for future builds. In my opinion, I just think that this, this is my district. I do believe I would advocate for something bigger for these students. We have assets just down the road that we could probably use to relocate, but I get the historical value of building number 1, and that's something that I wouldn't want to get rid of, but I just think that we're just putting more of our money, capital money, into something that's going to eventually, the Castaldi and Jacobs report is going to come back and say, I know you put $500,000 into that building, but it's too old. It needs to be torn down. So that's where I'm at with that. I'm just, if we are using a Castaldi for one reason, and with that prior page, if you could pull that up, where it falls on the, thank you. Manatee Elementary, if everyone can see that, look how far down the scale that is. So, I mean, that's way down the list of getting a rebuild or anything. You've got Braden River at number 9 and Manatee L at 43. So it's, okay, we're just putting a Band-Aid on this building, essentially. That's what we're doing. I just feel like the students and the staff there deserve to have a better campus. That's just my point, and I'll stop at that.
Thank you. We have Mr. Tatum lit up.
I hadn't considered any of that. I'm glad you brought it up. So where would we go? I mean, what properties do we have available? Would we have to, if we wanted to move this campus somewhere else because it's too small? Ms. Saunders?
Yeah, I'll probably weigh in a little bit. Where that is centrally located, we rezoned, that was one of the sites that we rezoned a few years ago so that it was a community school. All the students that attend there, other than some possible self-contained ESE students, walk. They're within the 2-mile radius. It is definitely a community school, a lot of history, as Ms. Spray had indicated, and that building that she's speaking of is 100 years old. The auditorium is in the bottom part, the admin office is in the front, but you have classrooms that spread on both sides plus above it. So that's why when there was a moisture problem with the exterior of the brick, it's a $500,000 cost to fix it. If you tear it down, you've got to replace the front office, the classrooms, and the auditorium. We only have 2 old elementary schools with auditoriums, and these are schools that have been in the community a long time. Ballard, which is in West Bradenton, and Manatee L. That's not common in today's finance that you put an auditorium in an elementary school. We don't put an auditorium in a middle school. Really, they're a pretty expensive item now. They're in the neighborhood of 15 to $20 million for just that. So as what Mr. Rinaldi indicated, when you're looking at the overall, yeah, there's a problem with that building, but it's a pretty inexpensive fix to move on down the line with capital dollars. We do not have any other property in central Bradenton, in that central corridor area. So if you, yes, we would not today, Ms. Spray's right, we would not today buy a 6-acre tract of land to put a school at. But that's what was done 100 years ago. But this school also doesn't have retention within it. It doesn't have a bus line within it. So some of the things that you need a lot of acreage, you don't have because it truly is a walkable campus and so forth. So if the board were interested in us relocating that site, one of the things we would have to do in that area is work within the city of Bradenton to see if there's even any available land. Because there's a lot, even though the school itself has capacity for a little over 700 students, it currently has 500 students that are in attendance because of choice and a variety of things. You know, the footprint right now of the kids on the campus with pre-K is just a little over 500. So, you know, we would have to find property because you can't, if you're busing them a grave distance, then you've just created another cycle of an issue because those are definitely walkable. If that were something that the board, you know, in the future wanted us to entertain to do, then Mr. Rinaldi's department would go and seek to see if there is, you know, a 15, 20 acre parcel of land in that region to build a new school. But I will say there's going to be a lot of community, and Ms. Bray did indicate that. There's a lot of history tied to that school. It is the namesake elementary school, and it's been there for 100 years. So those are all the factors for that.
Ms. Spray mentioned there were other assets nearby. I thought I heard her say that. What did you say? There was
I'm
another
referring to the Wakeland property.
Wakeland property. How far away?
Yeah, that you would have to bus students to. That's not a walkable campus, right? But if you know, but it's
the closest one.
It's the closest proximity of land.
Okay.
Yes.
So are these to some degree, when I hear water issues, mold, things like that, this is some degree a safety and security issue or not? I mean, not something that, those words maybe have legal ramifications to them, but things that we would want to get repaired so that, you know, there's not water leaking from ceilings. And is that what we're trying to accomplish?
That's exactly.
And it doesn't cause greater problems either. I mean,
preventive maintenance.
Right.
And deterioration, further deterioration of the structure. So, yes.
Because if we were to decide to not use this school anymore and find another property or move to Manatee, I mean, that's a process of a year, 2, 3. It's a years-long process, I'm assuming, right? It's not something that happens quickly or over, you know.
Well, a couple of things. First of all, you can't tear down anything but that one structure. Right. So you would have the other structures that the board would have to determine what to do. You can't use the Wakeland site as it is, partly why we don't have students in there currently was because of a structural issue. That school was built in the 70s, I believe, 60s, 70s. And it's a beautiful piece of property. You've got big oak trees, but the roots from the trees have caused some structural issues. So you would have to you find dollars to renovate that campus and then swing that and then determine what you would want to do with the existing campus as it is. So it's not a year-long process. I would say it's probably more 3 to 5 year process. But then you also have to look at your budget because right now you don't have dollars earmarked for that. So then the board would have to reprioritize your 5-year capital plan if you wanted to make that an expenditure.
And the reason I'm asking, I'm just trying to explore.
No, that's just the process.
I'm trying to explore Ms. Spray's idea. You know, that unfortunately, the sunshine laws prevent Ms. Spray and I from having, or any of us having this conversation. I had never considered this possibility, so I'm just going through all the things in my mind. If we wanted to do this, what would it cost? How long would it take? We'd have to bus students there. Is this to some degree a preventive maintenance so we don't do more damage to the school at this time? It's a $500,000. I mean, that's, you know, a lot of money, but to prevent more money being spent down the road doing preventive maintenance, it would take 3 to 5 years to either get another piece of property to renovate Wakeland. I'm just kind of running through all these things in my head because, again, I haven't had the opportunity to think through this outside of this meeting. So one question I have is I'm still getting smart on the capital plan. I pulled that up. It's not on, at least as I see it on the capital plan, there's a construction, a list of construction alphabetically. Is this something new we're going to add to the capital plan? Is it not on the capital plan, or am I missing it?
Well, it's within the components within maintenance.
Okay.
They've got some moisture-related line items, and a lot of time we tie some of the roofing is going to be tied into this, downspout gutters, things like that. So it's a mixture right now coming from the maintenance division, where the top half, that's the alphabetical, that's from construction services. So this is more of a preventive maintenance project, and that's how the funding is going to occur.
Okay, so there's a alphabetical order of schools on that capital plan, and then below it there's a maintenance line. Like,
you got the district-wide, about 40. We almost have $44 million in district-wide expenditures that includes staff salaries as well as these types of projects to upgrade and prevent maintenance.
Countywide annual repairs and maintenance, bleachers, CCTV, electrical, fire alarm. That's what these are the type of things. So it's going to come out of the maintenance budget. It's not a planned. And just to make sure I heard, there's actually within your department, there's a maintenance department that does the maintenance stuff, and then there's construction services, which builds.
But it's for this instance, because of the magnitude of this change, it's really, it's heavy preventive maintenance, so we moved the funding over to construction services, and that's why you see today we hired an architect and we hired a construction manager that's going to give us estimating and all that. So sometimes if it's a major maintenance project like this, like a $2 million roofing project, it will be in the maintenance budget, but we move it over to construction services because that's the process that works best for those large-scale projects.
So after having this discussion, I mean, I hear what you're saying, Ms. Spray. It seems like if they could have a better site, great, but it doesn't seem like there's a short-term solution to fix this, and we need to do something to prevent further deterioration of this infrastructure with the $500,000. But
yeah, well, we have more.
That's all right.
We have other
Go
people
ahead.
lit up.
I'll
and then
dialogue
you can dialogue back
afterwards.
with that.
Sure.
So, okay, so that's all, that's the only comments I have. But so do we get to dialogue, or we wait till all the comments are done and then dialogue, or?
Well, there's other people have been lit up this
great.
whole time.
Sure.
So we'll go through them, and then if you want to respond back to anybody,
Yeah.
you can with some of your thoughts. Ms. Messenger?
Yeah, so I know that no one else on the board was on the board when we did the Jacobson report. But the whole point of that report was so that we made data-based decisions, especially when we knew elections were going to become single district elections. There were a lot of concerns that it would become, can't even think of the right word.
Territorial?
Yeah, I guess, where, there, and the former superintendent at the time even admitted she would feel pressure to do that, to make sure that there were projects in everybody's district, whether that was really data-based or not. And so the whole point of that report was so that we would make data-based decisions and really look at the schools that needed the repairs most, which is why Palmasola was on that list. And it didn't make financial sense to try and rebuild that school because of all of the problems that it had. It had index number and well over 35, which in this study is considered poor. Whereas Manatee Elementary in this study has a score of 12. Well, a score of 10 or less is in good condition. So I don't, and that counted this building. So it's certainly not perfect, but I just want to focus on making a decision based on the data and the real needs. Palmasola needed something dramatic to be done. The data supported that decision. I don't feel as if the data supports this. And the Jacobs report was not made by us. It was made by an outside company with experts. They went into the ceilings. They went into every single building. They inspected every nook and cranny to be thorough in what was really issues at the school, to really give us the most accurate data so that we could make data-driven decisions based on impartial information. So I would rather focus on that because I think that's truly the fairest way to do this. If there's a school that's now number 9 on the list that's going to get bumped down for somebody that's number 43, I don't feel like that's fair to that school or that community. I am not in favor of doing that. About the size of the site, it is significantly smaller, but I will say that we are also building schools significantly larger now. Hundreds of students more are going in our new schools than this school, and this school is not even at capacity. This school is only at 77% capacity as it stands, but we're building schools significantly larger, 200, 300 students more than this school's capacity. Still, I agree with you. I'd like to have a larger site. But the nice thing about that school is that it is a neighborhood school. It is a walkable school. That was the goal of this board, and why we also supported Palmasola being rebuilt is because we wanted neighborhood schools. This school is that. This school is a neighborhood school. That's also the nice thing about where the placement of that clinic is families can walk there for their children. There's a real benefit to the community partnership program that's been placed there. There's a huge amount of community buy-in because of that. There's also a huge amount of community buy-in because of that clinic and how it's really supported the students and that community. So I hear your concerns, and this amount of money is, I did the math, is 1/4% of our revenue per year. 1/4% of our revenue for the year. So while I know for us it looks like, gosh, that's a big dollar figure, but when we look at it in perspective of what we bring in and what we need in order to function and grow with what we're having in other areas, I don't think this is a significant amount of money for what needs to be done there to make it right. Even if it were to be, as Mr. Tatum said, some temporary fix and something else is looked at in the future, although I will say Wakeland was closed because it had significant structural issues. That was found, I believe, by a Castaldi. So there's a reason why there's no students there, and that would have to be completely redone, probably all the way down. You'd have to probably tear up the concrete, I would imagine, because that was part of the problem, was the slab. So I'm not sure that's any cheaper than just buying a piece of land and building something, but then you're losing the neighborhood aspects, which I think are so important to that school. There's a lot of, all the schools I worked at were Title I schools. There's a lot of families that don't have a car. There's a lot of families that may only have one car and that person's driving to work. So it being walkable for families is monumental. And I know we talked about transportation. If we already acknowledge that we have problems with transportation, which we have for years, and it's actually gotten significantly better than it was when I first joined the board, so I'm commending the district for how much we've moved forward. I know we've tried lots of different things over the years, and I know how much we've moved forward because I know when I first joined the amount of feedback I received on it. And while I still receive some, it's nowhere to the level it was. But it doesn't make sense for us, at least in this point when we're already having transportation issues, to even consider moving a school that is walkable for a neighborhood to making it something that it's not. Not to mention Wakeland is also very close to Johnson. And I really don't want to cannibalize the students that go to Johnson because that's a fabulous program for that area. So I support this because I believe it is necessary in order to make sure that the school stays a healthy school, a solid school, a structurally sound school. I do not believe we should deviate from the data that we have been given from an impartial source about what the facility needs truly are. So I support this. Thank you.
Ms. Foreman?
Yeah. Yeah, I think the walkability of the school is extremely important. I love neighborhood schools. Ms. Messenger made some very good points about families not being able to drive, kids being on buses. But I do want to ask a question. Does the Department of Education ever tell us we have to tear down a school?
No, through the Castaldi, we make a recommendation and then they either agree or do not agree. So I've never been in a situation where they've come and told us we need to tear it down.
What happens if we tear a school down, even when they say no?
I don't know if there are Castaldi police or not, or what exactly will happen, but we try to avoid that.
Well,
Keep our
of course,
relationship
but
strong.
you know, sometimes we don't agree with DOE, you know, so just throw that out there. I'm reminded of Manatee High School, and I think this is a great discussion because it needs something.
Yes.
Eventually. I think it needs, obviously, repair now. But I'm reminded of Manatee High School and the Davis building, which had rats falling through the ceiling. I mean, it was bad. It was very bad. But it was the sentiment of the facade of the Davis building was just, you could not tear down the Davis building and not have a riot on your hands. So they kept the facade and basically built a whole new school inside it, okay? And at some point, perhaps that's a solution for Manatee Elementary. The other thing they did, because it's very tight constraint, is they went to the neighborhood around it and bought those houses. Yeah. And because I've been at Manatee L during when you know, pickup line, and it's very hard. It's very the whole neighborhood is basically in a gridlock, you know. And so there's things that could be done to improve Manatee L, and I would be in favor of exploring, you know, what could be done. But I think for now we have to vote for this. So.
If you guys could clear your speaking buttons for me, that'd be great. I'd say, yeah, this is a great topic. This is a great discussion. I do think that Ms. Messenger brought it up, that I love that this report, I know it was done before, well, maybe you were on the board, and I know you were, but before others. So you're the only one that when it was done. And it does bring an impartial eye to say, these are the schools that need to be looked at. This wasn't something that the district did, a superintendent, a board member. This was an outside entity coming in and looking at our schools thoroughly inside and out. So I do love that we can fall back on the report, because that's what we should be doing, because we're all going to have our own folks in the community that pull us this way for something or that way for something for their school or whatever, or however that works, right? We're going to have someone, and I didn't know it went back to because of single districts, and that does make sense, right? Because we're going to fight for our own districts, which we should. We're holistically looking at the big picture. I think that it being 43rd and only scoring a 12 shows that it was in good enough standards that that's what they scored when you look at other things. I am a huge proponent on keeping history, and that's a 100-year-old auditorium. I know the Davis building facade looks the same, but it's not the Davis building. There's no creaking of the floors and the characteristics, which I know that may have which I know may have caused issues, but it's just not the same, right? I know it looks very similar and it's beautiful, it's great, but that's a whole other topic. So, but I would love to be able to keep me. This was the elementary school, and I think if we can keep it as historically accurate in what it is, we can. $500,000. I know to normal, when you look at your own house and you say, "Oh, I need a new AC or new roof." I know $500,000 seems like a lot of money, but for the renovation, this will last for years. For that, just doing some calculations, like 3% of what tearing it down would be costing. So I'm for approving both of these things and moving forward and fixing what we need to be fixed. I'm not opposed to saying, how do we fix stuff in that area? Absolutely. I do not think moving to Wakeland is the answer. I do think keeping the school there, but maybe it is purchasing some land when it's available around it. Maybe it is doing things with the city that we're not thinking about now that we can say, how do we fix the flow and the traffic and things like that? So I think that's a good idea, but I do think that you're going to end up having every school come in. If we don't have that list of a priority of an outside source, we're going to have schools there's always something somewhere at every school we could fix, right? And we just don't have the resources every year and the time. So I do think we need to stick to that report, because it was done independently. It wasn't anyone pushing one way or the other. So that's all I have to say with that. So Ms. Spray, you're lit back up.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Who actually does the Castaldi and the Jacobs report? Are there any of our own architects that are involved with that?
For the Castaldi, we hire an architect to do the Castaldi report, and we've got about 3 architectural firms that are familiar with the process and have done it for us in the past.
And are they currently the architects that we hired to do our capital projects?
Yes, absolutely, yes.
Okay, so they would have knowledge of okay. I've heard mention that it's not at capacity, yet this page says that there are 723 students there now. Yeah, I heard
There's 523
All right.
there today, counting pre-K, but the capacity of the school would hold 723 students.
Okay, because there's a lot of construction going on just south of that. And like you said, there's choice, and I'm not opposed to this renovation. That's not why I brought this up. I brought this up because I think our students there deserve a better campus, whether that is in the future, looking at the surrounding property would be south of Manatee, east and west, perhaps the little houses that are around there. I don't know if that would be a long-term goal. I love the little auditorium. I think it's just, it brought back childhood memories when I went in there, but it also brought back medical issues real quick as soon as I walked in there. So it's not that I brought this off the consent to not do this. It was more, I think we need to start looking at this campus that's on how many acres did you say? 6? I thought it was initially 4, but okay. 6 acres, and how maybe we can eventually reconfigure everything to extend and make a big square, put playground in the middle, and there you have all of our students in a safer playground environment. So I just want the board to know that I didn't bring this off the agenda consent to not have it done. It was more, I think we need to start looking for future solutions to meet our student base and to, I mean, they deserve it. In my opinion, they deserve it. Community school, we're gonna put a Band-Aid on it for now, but I'm just telling the community that I think that that school needs, a major renovation eventually. Okay, that's all I have, so.
Do you have anything else? Sorry, I was looking at the side of it. Okay, so I don't have any other questions or anybody lit up to speak. So with item number 3, we do have we had a motion, we had a second. There it is right there. We all vote for the approval of Manatee Elementary School Auditorium exterior renovations agreement. And that passes 5-0. Moving on to item number 4 of new business, non-consent, Superintendent Saunders.
Yes, I recommend the approval of Manatee Elementary School auditorium exterior renovations, the agreement between owner and Long and Associates, Architects, Engineers, Inc., in the amount of $45,962.50.
So moved.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? I know we already discussed it with the previous. So seeing no one lit up to speak, I don't believe. Let's go ahead and vote on item number 4. And that passes 5-0. Moving on to item number 16, new business, no superintendent recommendation. No new business there that was added to the agenda. Number 17, workshop items, requests. We've got stuff out through May. Obviously, we know we've got a workshop tomorrow, a pretty important one as we move forward. Obviously, with FSBA being a large part of our workshops moving forward. We'll point out, in May, we'll start with our budgeting processes and then working that into June. So if there was anything that you wanted to add, Ms. Foreman, I know you brought up some information earlier.
And I will, I don't know what the appetite is on, well, I do want to have a workshop on board communication, not, and it would be board initiated. I don't know exactly how we would do that, but, or board led, but I also want to, is there any appetite to discuss 4-day weeks? Consider it? No? Okay.
Well, I'm not saying yes or no. I guess I've never really thought about it until you brought it up. And
How many of the districts do it? Maybe we should workshop it just to see.
I don't know, was it someone in
Get some
Florida
data?
that did it?
No, that was that was in Arkansas. And it was, like I said, it was small. But no, the idea would be that you select certain schools, you would pilot it.
Right,
in
of course.
certain schools, you would not do it district-wide in a district this size. But there are studies out there and,
I would say I would definitely like to see studies and discuss it. I don't know if I want to discuss in the next 4 to 6 months.
Okay.
With the new superintendent and things like that.
Oh, yeah, okay.
But I do think it's worth looking into.
Well, let's put it on the list for
Future.
6 months from now, okay, all right.
And I think the communication, not to cut you off, I'm sorry, but I think that workshop will go really well with the master board stuff at the same time.
Yeah.
I'm not saying we do that during master board. I'm saying as we start, when we get that new superintendent and we start a master board training.
I think we need to do it before that.
Before that?
Yeah, we've got things that we are not doing well, that we could be doing better, and I think for us to get our minds around what we would like to see, I mean, it would help with the new superintendent coming in, but it would also help us unify our message, and avoid some pitfalls of not, of our external communication not being consistent. I think we need some work there. And also on developing our elevator speeches, figuring out how we would like to do workshops if we would, or community forums. Town halls, yeah, or if we, what involvement we would want with students. I think those are all important things that are not really part of master board training.
Oh, yeah.
But,
Yeah, I didn't mean,
but to do it before,
I think it'd be a good start
sooner
to
than
then
later.
moving into master board.
okay,
Yeah.
sooner than later, so,
Okay.
okay, but I will put it on there.
Yeah, definitely
so.
put it on there to the superintendent, and we can. I have a question. Sorry if I didn't cut anybody off. I have a question though for superintendent. Ms. Chatham, I see you're lit up.
Sure.
I'll go to you next. So tomorrow's workshop, FSBA, elementary reading supports, review and board discussion and proposed amendments to school board policies. I guess I just feel like I don't know.
Want me to move some things?
I know. I'm just looking at it, and with FSBA, I don't know what that looks like. Right? We've never done. We have never taken 25 applicants and made it down to semifinals. So I don't know. If we're talking 30 minutes, 45, an hour, hour and a half, and that's my concern is.
Well, what I can do is I will put the reading and the board proposed amendments on standby so that we can easily bump them to a later date.
If we happen to go over it. I'm
Yeah,
not saying we are.
if you don't, it's fine, but, and I'll probably move that around, because if you have time, I probably would pick the policy to be, if you have to get rid of, move one, because that way you can, because you've got a time stamp on that for the 30-day window to get the policies approved. Because, so I'll move those around and just let Dr. Breslin know that if it's running long, no problem, I'll bump it to the next, on the 28th. There looks like there's time that I could easily move the reading one.
I spoke to
on
Dr.
that.
Vogel about what the process and
Right.
and I'm not saying I'm not saying it's going to last X amount of. I don't know. And
But I think that's a good suggestion. I'll go ahead.
I don't want to cut short
Right.
a discussion of what we're having because we know we got to feel like we got to get to other things.
Sure. So I'll go ahead and, she'll go last if there's time. If not, I can go ahead and just bump her to the 28th.
Okay.
No, I just want to I watched Brevard's selection of their semifinalists, and there really wasn't there was no discussion of who the semifinalists were and what, and they just each gave their own opinions by applicant number, and they tallied them, and that was it. So, so it wasn't terribly exciting.
And
So.
hopefully ours may not be.
I hope not.
I'm just bringing it up for discussion just because we've got
Yeah.
obviously people coming, Dr. Breslin, things like that. I have Mr. Tatum lit up to speak. Go ahead.
So for a workshop item, I would like to know if we would like to explore the possibility of setting up what I might call an employee parent relations center. Apparently we used to have something like that in the past where employees and parents were kind of directed to those people to handle issues that come up. And I've talked about this a little bit before about trying to get people to, it's okay that they email us and talk to us, but all we essentially do is pass these things off to the superintendent, and then it kind of works its way down through the system. And so have a workshop on that. And I'd like to do it soon so that as the budget cycle comes up for the next year, these positions could be potentially budgeted for, and we could try and set up this employee parent relations center where it would be more than just, like right now there is an ESE person who takes care of parents and issues like that, but this would be for everyone, right? Like employees that say, I don't feel like my healthcare is being looked after appropriately, or whatever those issues that are, or my bus is late, or all those things that, and just.
My question would just be the superintendent, do we have something already, if we broke it up from employees, each one that Mr. Tatum's talking about. I mean, yeah, I mean, I guess an employee, from an employee standpoint, do we have someone where they can call? I don't, I mean, my assumption is.
Generally, they funnel any complaints or concerns through HR. Is generally how an employee is. We do have, you know, a division within HR, but I think he's looking at kind of for beyond employee, you know, so.
Especially parents, but this is, you know, I talked about this before. The military hospitals that I was at, they had this person, they were called the patient advocate. And the patient advocate was the person where, for whatever reason, the system just didn't seem to be handling, or at least the person didn't seem to think that the system was handling their problem. And this is a person who has access to, has more information and access, and you can go there and say, look, I've tried to work my problem through my normal chain of command, and it's just not happening. And so this employee parent relations center then becomes a kind of a bridge between the system and the employee.
Finding a solution.
And finding helping them find a solution. So
I mean, I don't think we have anything like that from a student, from a parent standpoint, to where like, here's the 1-800 number, hotline number, or whatever, or email that you would say, how do we figure out this or that? So yeah, I mean, I think it'd be a
You put
good
it on a
thing to have.
workshop and explore what he's talking about and how the system works now and what possibilities to tweak it. So I wrote it down for, you know, for further discussion so that you guys can determine.
I mean, to be honest with you, I think it probably falls in that May 26th presentation of school staffing plan. I mean, I know we're going to have a pretty big discussion probably about, or I mean, I know what that looks like. It's pretty thick folder and things like that. But that may just be part of that process of saying, what does this look like? Where, you know, how would they work, et cetera.
We can add it to the budget at any time.
Okay.
You know,
Right.
just, I mean, you know, it could be in the fall, you know.
I think the discussion is probably like more like, what do we want them to do? How do we implement it? Where do they, yeah. I like it.
Okay. And then as far as the issue you brought up about tomorrow's workshop, I'm a little bit concerned that, I mean, I would like to do some vetting on these people before I say that, you know, these are the final people. And, you know, we got 10 new people when I woke up this morning, and it's like I got less than 24 hours to appropriately go through this. I
100% agree.
You know, and so I got.
So,
Well, I think that's why he's saying to bump the other two people, because I believe FSBA will be coming in. My understanding is they do vetting on applicants, so they probably have a lot of information. So you're saying you probably would like time to discuss things too, possibly, whatever, so you can narrow it down. So I'll just table the other or put them on hold.
Remember, this was, just to your point, this was a Friday workshop that obviously three of us are gonna be gone because of the financial form. And so when I was speaking to Dr. Vogel last night, that some of the concern was, we're gonna wake up this morning and have X amount of new folks. So I don't know of like I mean, there's no perfect solution other than, and that's why I'm asking about tomorrow. Because I just don't know.
If I could.
Yeah, Miss Spray was on.
Yeah. On tomorrow's workshop, there's a review of the reading. That was a request from myself and Mr. Tatum.
That is correct.
So I have no problem moving that to another date, because I think that's gonna be a longer discussion. I would rather have more discussion right now with the FSBA than anything. And like you said, to your point, we just got basically a data dump this morning, and I want time to review that. I know FSBA is gonna bring I talked to them as well, and I'm like, I'm just asking questions, generic. Is this the process? Because none of us have been through this. I mean, senior board member here has not been through this process. So I do believe we need to focus more on that right now. And again, we're gonna get the data tomorrow from FSBA. we're gonna go home, the three of us, grab our suitcase and head out. We're not gonna have a whole lot of time to even process what's being presented. So I'm all for moving both of these other agenda items, simply because of our schedule.
Do we have to, I talked to Mr. Vogel yesterday, he seemed to want us to have these finalists, like he's gonna walk out the door with,
Right,
why can't we just,
and that's
They're semi.
semis.
okay, semifinalists, but why can't we just wait till Friday and have, okay, we'll get these to you by Friday, I mean, if,
I think that could be a discussion that we have. I mean,
okay. But I agree with Ms. Spray that let's just focus on this tomorrow and
Yeah.
not, and limit our time and.
And Friday, you're saying we don't even get back until,
he's just talking about giving, I mean, we could
Oh, I
use
see.
an email to them or
Yeah, dear
a
Mr.
phone
Vogel,
call.
these are my semifinalists.
oh, I got it,
That
I got
way-
it.
The
Individually communicate, not actually on a board.
Because he was looking, from my understanding, he wanted us tomorrow, he wants to walk out tomorrow with these semifinalists.
No, absolutely. That's, the plan is tomorrow to walk out because they do the numbers, hey, number 4, number 5, number 7, number 10, whatever, and then you go through. So, yeah, that is the plan, and that is what is on our own timeline that we did. Miss Messenger, I know you were lit up.
I was just going to kind of point out what Mrs. Foreman just said, that this is just the semifinalists, so it's going to be a larger swath of people. I know that, we all like to go do our investigations and things, but we have time to do that another few weeks before we identify finalists. They're going to do all those types of things. We'll have time to do all those things. This is just like an initial identification. Like there were some on there, you're like, no.
Yeah.
Well, that's easy then, right? I think that's really more of the goal at this point, is just to do that type of decision making. Pick the semifinalists, then you'll have that time really to do what you would like to do, because I do agree with you, it is a really tight turnaround. And let FSBA do all of their vetting that they do. And some of them, I'm sure they're people that they're having lots of places that's might already be done, or but some may not. So the only other consideration is, and we don't need to, we're going so off of tangents, not focusing on actually workshop requests at this point. We're having like an actual workshop on this at this point. But I will say, the only thing about doing it tomorrow and identifying those for semifinalists tomorrow is that it's done in the public's view. And if you do it by email, I don't think that it's public. Yeah, okay, they can request your email, but it's not the same thing. Even if you're saying yes, thumbs up to number 3 and thumbs down to number 4 or whatever, and I'm sorry to number 3 and number 4 because I don't even know who they are. But like, it's public. And so that's just something for a consideration. I mean, I guess we'll have a discussion about it tomorrow, so I'm jumping the gun because we're having a discussion about a workshop and talking, it's really becoming a workshop. So just to focus it, tomorrow is only semifinalists. And based on what Mrs. Foreman is saying, because she's so good about watching other school boards, it doesn't sound like it's going to be necessarily a lengthy process, because it's probably going to be, how does everyone feel about number 1? If there's 3 people that say yes to number 1, they're probably on the list. How does everyone feel about number 2? It's probably not going to be, because there's a lot of in between of let's review, let's look into them, this is just an initial first blush at these people. So, sorry, that's not nice either, these people. So I can sense that there's like concern, and I have concern as well because it's a tight turnaround, but we have to give ourselves grace because it's just a semifinalist ranking. It's not the finalists. It's not the people that are going to come here. There is time for that. We're not identifying those people until the end of this month. That gives us 2 weeks for FSBA to do their work, for us to get questions back from them and make those decisions. There's still quite a bit of time is all I'm saying. That's it.
And I only brought it up concerning the other 2 items.
Yes, I get
that
it.
I don't want Dr. Breslin sitting in here if she can go be working somewhere else doing something because she's waiting and we happen to go longer or not go longer. So obviously I think we'll all get our answers tomorrow with Dr. Vogel here in the room. So I'm not concerned. I would just say, just in case, those other things, I know Mr. Chapman is in the room, if those other things need to be pushed, whatever, just the flexibility. That's the only reason why I brought it up. Anything else? I don't think there's anybody else with any other new items.
So just to be clear, those items are still on the list for the workshop. We just may not get to them. Is that our plan?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
We would just push them back to the next ones.
The reason I brought that up then is because I was going to spend part of this evening reviewing the policies so I can make comments on them. But if I have to spend most of my evening I don't know.
I'll move on, Mr. Tatum. I'll move those next two to the following week, meeting so that you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
We'll just focus on this.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I
Fine.
appreciate that.
Sure.
Thank you.
All right, so then that brings us to updates, legal updates. Mr. Dye?
Just a reminder, we entered into the contract on Rye Elementary site already, so that's underway. And we're still pending with Artisan Lakes. So
With who?
Artisan Lakes
Okay.
in North County. So we're in negotiation with the developer, and that'll be coming to you next, as far as acquisition for future schools. That's it.
Thank you. Operations. Mr. Wagner.
Very good. Good morning, Chairman Choate, members of the board, superintendent. I have 3 items today. Number 1, we have our job fair on April 15th coming up. It's for the Great Florida Teach-In. It's where all the districts go to Orlando and they set up a booth, and then students who graduate college or who are looking for jobs will come to Orlando to the Great Florida Teach-In and be interviewed by multiple districts. So we're attending that. And then also on April 20th is our operations fair and para as well at the Wakeland Support Center. So we have 2 events this month in April. Number 2, Brooks Harper, he is a motivational speaker that we bring in to talk to all of our seniors. So that's happening this week in all of our high schools. It's a big deal. The superintendent and others had saw him years ago, and we had him come very regularly here in Manatee County, but since COVID, we've not had him. So he's back. It's a way for him to talk about, getting your career in gear. What are you doing after high school? Let's go. It's time to motivate, and let's have a plan. So a lot of them have plans already, but there are students who may not, and so that's very exciting going on the next couple of days at all of our high schools. Number 3, I just want to put on your radar that you're invited to our annual water tower competition. It's at the fairgrounds. It's going to be on Saturday from 8 to 1 in Veterans Hall. And so we have 20 elementary schools participating, and they're bringing 85 different teams. And it is interesting if you haven't seen it yet, because even if you ask a lot of adults, how is it that the water comes out of your faucet when you turn it on? How does that happen? Here in the city of Bradenton or Palmetto, wherever you might live. So the students actually build their own water towers, and they understand the technology behind, why the water is lifted up in the air. And so they do all sorts of measurements. Manatee County really was one of the first, we were the first county to implement this years back. And so it's really exciting. If you have a minute, come by and interview the students, ask them how the water comes out of their faucet, ask them about their water tower that they built, and they had to be creative with it, and it's really something to see. So that's on Saturday at the fairgrounds. So those are my 3 updates. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good job. Thank you.
Instructional? Superintendent?
Yes, on Thursday, April the 13th at MTC from 6 to 7:30, we are going to have a gifted agency fair. We have, in the past years, had an ESE agency fair, and now we're hosting a gifted agency fair. That is the same time of the Golden Herald Awards ceremony, so we have multiple things going on. But that event is at 6 p.m. at SCF at the Neal Performing Arts. And this, Manatee Memorial Hospital honors our outstanding Manatee County seniors and awards. It's really a pretty amazing thing. So the winners will receive a Golden Herald Award medallion and a cash award and a trophy. So it is a major award ceremony for our graduating seniors. Also on Friday, April the 21st at 5 p.m. at the Manatee County Administrative Building, Congressional Teachers Award. If you've not been there yet or seen this, Congressman Vern Buchanan recognizes our outstanding teachers in this region. So it's Manatee and Sarasota counties.
Yeah.
So those are the events going on instructionally. And my superintendent update, remember we have Project Teach. That's coming up where we partner with the chamber, that we go in and work and read to a 4th grade classroom. And that's on April 20th from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. And this has occurred for many years, and we have 150 business volunteers participating in that. So again, it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. The chamber partners with us just to make sure that the community is involved in the education of our youth. Thank you.
Thank you. Board comments I've got on here: Messenger, Tatum, Foreman, Spray, and then myself. So Ms. Messenger.
I don't really have a lot. We had a really great meeting today. Just one thing, I went to the Children's Parade last Friday, and I wanted to give a shout out to Palmetto Charter School, Freedom Elementary, and Palmasola, because they all won awards for their floats. So, and I just thought to myself, it would have been a really interesting time to go to be in the Grimes household because of Palmasola and Freedom, because their principals are married.
Yeah.
So it would have been really an interesting day. But that was it. Just congratulations to those schools. There was a lot of schools there. It was very well attended. I don't think I've seen so many of our schools there in the years past that I've gone. So I really enjoyed that personally. So it was just great, and this was a good meeting. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Tatum.
I just wanted to continue to help the public understand that our shade meeting today was about security, and so we are continuing to look at this, and we got to find that balance between making our schools prisons, which we don't want to do, but still continuing to focus on security and safety. So we had a meeting today. That's what it was about. We can't go into the details, but we are focusing on it just so the public knows that it's on our radar based on recent events that are happening. And the second thing I wanted to mention is lately a couple people have approached me about being volunteers within the school system based on certain talents that they have. And so I would encourage the people out there, if you feel like you have a particular talent that you'd like to offer to the school system, we've found some good placement for people to be professional mentors, especially in some of our schools, our specialty schools we might call them, that could use some more volunteers and have adult professional mentors to really help some of our children who are in these particular types of schools to see a future and see a bright spot coming for them. And so I would encourage people to volunteer if they can, and you can contact me or any of the other board members, whoever you know. We'd be willing to try and plug them in somewhere and pass those off to the superintendent to find ways to plug people in. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Foreman.
I really don't have much to say at all. The shooting in Tennessee is foremost on my mind, and I think we need, we did talk about it this morning, and we are, as a district, we are taking it very, very seriously. So anyway, and I'm appreciative to all of the applicants that we received for superintendent. I know the fact that it's public makes it particularly difficult for people to put their names out there, and so I thank them for that, and plan to proceed respectfully. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Ms. Spray.
Okay. I attended the program at Braden River with the kids, and it was, like I said, the video doesn't do it justice. Being there was just incredible. It give you chills almost. It was just neat. And you can see the enthusiasm in the kids. And one particular girl, I could just see her just dancing, and she was just so excited. It was uplifting. Also, The CFOC meeting was on the 5th, and they've done a lot of good work with getting their report ready to present. They're gonna reach out to you. But there are vacancies. One person passed away, one missed 3 meetings, and then, of course, the vacancy that I had. So if you all, I would ask the board to start thinking about recruiting somebody for that. And people in the public, please apply online for any committee seat that you would like to serve on. We would love to have you. Going back to Mr. Tatum's comment about volunteers, a constituent did reach out to me about what they could do, and I shared the actual link where you sign up to volunteer through messaging, and they were very grateful. But I do want people to, have the CFOC on their mind that we need to fill those vacancies, and I'm not sure what the chair of that committee, her intent is. Her term ends in 23, then June 30th, actually. So we might need to keep that on our minds. I, too, want to thank all of the applicants. There's some interesting data to sift through, and that's what I've been doing for the last, since they started. My little binder that started like this is now like that. So if that tells you anything, it's something I take very serious. I think it's one of the biggest decisions this board's going to make this year. And I want to make sure my understanding of the applicants is very thorough, and I do my own research as well. And I know FSBA is going to do their due diligence. That's why we hired them, to sort out the best of the best. And that's what I think they're going to do. From my conversation, it's where I was led to believe anyway. But I think it was a good meeting as well. My briefing was very intense and depth with what was on the consent. I do want the public to know that. I do review everything that we get. It's a job, and I take every bit of it serious. So with that, I want to thank you, Chair, for a good meeting, and all the other board members.
Yeah, ditto on the good meeting. Thank you, Ms. Foreman, for presenting about the COSPA.
Oh, yeah.
COSPA. Really good ideas there, and I think that's why we go to those conferences and things like that, is to come back with ideas to make this board better. So I really appreciate that. I do want to just kind of reiterate, just like what Mr. Tatum said and what Ms. Foreman said, and really give kudos to Paul D'Amico, Mr. D'Amico, and our security and safety department. They're top notch. I don't know if there's anybody better. I know there's probably not in the state, and maybe even the country. He does a fantastic job, is always looking ahead, and so I want to thank them for keeping the students safe. Unfortunately, I know 3 of us are going to be gone for Thursday's Golden Herald Awards, but I do want to wish everybody good luck to that. I was a finalist myself, didn't win, but that's okay. I have forgotten about it.
You were a finalist, I forgot.
And I do want to say thank you to Dr. Jones and staff over at MSA. I did first time I'd ever been out over. I mean, I've driven by the campus, obviously, tons of times through Palmetto and through Cutton Haven Boulevard, but I've never actually gone to MSA and have seen the actual campus. So and it was nice to see the new elementary school being built, and so. Thank you to them for that opportunity to walk through there. Other than that, I am excited to move forward with the superintendent search. I know for all of us, it's something new. Thankful that we've got applicants. I think maybe over the weekend it was like, wait a minute, there's only 10. I figured there'd be a kind of a flurry here at the end, and there was. So I'm excited to dive more into the newer ones. And make sure that we pick the right person that's going to move this district from the great things we're already doing to even better. So I'm excited about tomorrow. I know it's going to be a lot. And I'm also excited about Thursday for us, Thursday, Friday, finishing up our finance conference. So that'll be good. And then maybe maybe we're somewhat there to be board certified board members like Ms. Foreman, if we fill out the paperwork. With that, great meeting. We'll see everybody in less than 24 hours, and have a good afternoon.
Going to a fundraiser.
It's at 9 tomorrow, right?